Tuesday, July 23, market analysis, Stan Ehrlich. I start out with indexes, go to futures. I got a little crypto and sometimes seasonal cycles, same thing basically, and forex, etc. So, as you guys know, that continue to listen to me, I greatly appreciate that. I have been looking for a rollover top, a move down now for about 2.5 months from now into October. And the last couple of days, we've had a little bit of a bounce. Today, we're around unchanged, not much lower on the daily E-mini September futures contract. And I think maybe today's high could be it at the top of this little rally, couple of days. Now, we came from overbought conditions and an ER sell signal that would be the red candlestick. If it's yellow, then it's either overbought or oversold. On the way up, of course, it's overbought. And on the way down, it gets yellow because it gets oversold. On my custom ER RSI, Wells Wilder's original relative strength, mine's customized a lot. I can think of easily 4 features of it that are different than his. And I learned RSI directly from Wells Wilder himself. So, bottom line, I'm looking for a minor little top here. I'm looking for a move down into minor new lows for the last 2 to 3 weeks. But if you do that, when we do that, we're going to start breaking down pretty quickly. And this support level of 5503, give or take a few points, 5,500, let's call it, is very important, because if that gives way, we're probably casting in stone, so to speak. Not really. Another major move down, and that would be to 54.33 or into the support area, 53.99, call it 54. Let's just say 54. So I think that breaking the lows of Friday is going to end up causing a breakage of the lows going back about a month, which is going to cause the move down to 54.30, 5,400. So that's why it's very important that we get below yesterday, and that'll start it, and then finally Friday's lows, and then kaboom. Okay, what are we doing right now? Well, the 1-minute chart came down to a couple of hours ago's minor little tiny support level, and doesn't look like it's doing too much at the moment on the upside. So I still have expectation that the first little tiny trigger is going to be 56.02 on the way down, and then below 55.87, which will be making new lows for the day. I should say new lows for the session, because these sessions are not just in the daytime like the old days, but they're overnight, etc. So that breakage of 55.87 is probably going to put a little fire in its pants, and we're going to drop off pretty quickly after that. And that's yesterday's low and the day before. Those are the two critically important levels here. 55.41 3/4. Shall I be accurate? 50.42, call it 55.42. But first, you got to take out, of course, 55.72. Next, Spider. Pretty much the same commentary. Too bad we didn't get a sell signal on the high day, which we have so far on the NASDAQ and the Dow YM, both. So let's finish the Spider. Overbought, gap down. I think it's a breakaway gap. I said so the day it gapped. That's the least likely of all the gaps, and there are 3 major gaps: exhaustion, breakaway, and a fairly rare midway gap. So the gaps are usually common gaps, and they're mostly filled over a few days to a few weeks, several weeks. But I'd say 80% of them plus are filled within a month. So is this going to get filled? I'm not sure. If we get high enough to do so, then it'd be critically important that it stop right away and start to head south immediately, or we're going to see new highs for the whole trend. Frankly, I don't even want to get up there. So I'm hoping that this high today is the turning point. And the 1 minute spider looks like we could be making new lows for several hours very soon. Now, Qs. Around where it opened, a little lower, not much, about unchanged, but a higher high than yesterday, and yesterday was a little bit higher than Friday's high, and that's all we got. So I think we have a good chance of turning down at this point, and starting to make lows lower than last Friday is critically important, because on the Qs, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to break into new lows for a greater period of time and start to really slide faster, I would expect. This is just simply the 1 minute chart on the Qs. Let's go to the NASDAQ. We have a sell signal on the very top of the market, the exact high day. Watch what happens on the Dow futures in a minute. So ER3 sells on a retracement, rallying back up into approximately the middle of the range of the signal day, which was July 11th. We got short relatively close to the high of that day, July 12th, and a little bit nervous the next day for a while because it made minor new highs, but our trailing stop hadn't even started to come down yet. But then we start to make new lows, and that helps, but not necessarily the cause of RSCS to start to come down, but part of it. And then a whopper of a new low, but there's other factors involved in my trailing stop movement. So it's not just new lows, or if you're long, new highs raises the stop. It's automatic, 100% automation. Now, we just missed getting stopped out using this particular kicker today, and we're still short from a signal on the top of the market. Next chart. Look how close we came, maybe within a couple of ticks of banging into the protective stop, but we didn't get hit. And here we are, almost setting off one first minor downside trigger, which, they're dominoes. Should cause it to make a new low for the session, might cause it to drop off below some important lows on Monday. And then if you get below, stay below Friday's lows, nail in the coffin, I think. Next, Dow Jones, we got the top of the market on the YM to the exact day, and that was Thursday. Friday, it dropped like a rock. Our stop dropped off quite a bit very, very quickly, and we missed getting stopped out by a small amount today on the rally high, and right now we're just around unchanged. What about the short term? 5 minute chart has those lows from earlier to contend with, and you start breaking that, we are already very close to the Monday lows, and that's extremely close to the Friday lows. So looking back at the daily chart again, making new lows for today probably would push a little bit more to yesterday's low, which again is super close to the low of Friday. And if you make a new low lower than Friday's low, you're going to make a new low for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe even 6 days, but at least 5 days. That's how it starts. Okay, this is the trade on the YM from the bearish engulfing. Didn't get stopped out. Coming close, but I hope we start to make new lows, or I'm going to take a profit. Now, Russell, not too important lately, just got up into a very broad resistance area. I've added this gold rectangle, very, very, very broad resistance, and it goes back ending in January of 22, beginning in February of 21 for a full year. But it apparently stopped the rally in overbought conditions. And a previous important top may have played a role. Dropped off some over a week or so. Let's zoom in a little. A few days. And yesterday, bullish engulfing. So we're getting a little bit more strength. I don't think we're going to make a new high. If we do, we're still kind of getting stuck in that major historical resistance. And because I'm expecting more weakness across the board in the indexes, I don't think it's going to make a new high. And I think we're going to turn down real soon. Next, Russell, short term, 1 minute, not much to say. Came up into some sloppy resistance from a few days ago. Bonds and notes. Doji, inside day, up a few ticks, 13. Not doing too much important. below where it opened, slipping a little bit from the opening. Not that big a deal. Well, actually, I'm sorry, we're a little higher in the opening, but still not that important. Notes, doji, not that important so far. I think we got a sloppy time period in front of us, back and forth, maybe sideways trading range, maybe. I think there's a little bit of a bearish tinge to it, or maybe a little bit of a bullish tinge, but no strong up move or down. Next, crude. Now, today, first time since a month and a half ago, we're oversold. We're not quite down to a price level at which I think we're going to bounce, but that would be 74.88. And that means we might be oversold for a couple of days, similar to what happened before. And that's very common. You don't get oversold for only one day very often. It's usually 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, a few. So I think we got a little bit more to go to that support level and bounce. So I'm a little bit more bearish since the overbought condition on the crude for the moment. Natural gas. Got oversold for a while, got all the way down to almost my minimum downside objective off the double top formation. And it, for all practical purposes, 95% probably worked. So pretty much finished with that. Oversold, we're bouncing. If we get back up to 2.323, probably begin to stop, and maybe it'll get up to 2.4, not much more, and then turn down into new lows. Trend is definitely down, obviously. Bearish, basically, but we could have a little bit more of a rally. Next, heating oil. Oversold for a few days now, not too deeply, but it looks like it's really trying to bottom out here. Now, yesterday's low was 2.4148. Today's low is 2.4152. That is 0.04, I think. Yeah, 0.0004. Above today, above the low of yesterday. If we had just barely made it a tick below yesterday's low, we would have an outside up day at one point. Right now, it's turned back down below yesterday's close. Now, an engulfing we did not quite get, so I got nothing but oversold. It looks like it's trying to bottom here. I'm not buying it yet. Double pun, I think. Gold turned away from a bullish resistance line above the market in overbought conditions, correcting down. Longer term trend definitely up, but it's having a lot of problem in this basic price range. So this could end up somehow developing into a significant top, but it ain't going to be this week. Probably not. Upside breakout could be very, very bullish, and a downside breakout should be pretty bearish, all the way down to probably the support area. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard spot, waiting at the moment for signals or something else to say that's intelligent. Next, silver and platinum have the same combination of a small head and shoulder top and a large head and shoulder top, which is almost about as rare as a snowball in hell. I don't remember seeing this for years, decades. And it's been 52 years or so I've been in the business, watching, drawing charts by hand at first, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this small head and shoulder top is the last shoulder on the larger first shoulder head and last shoulder head and shoulder top. The small pattern had an objective down to here, and it took 2 days for it to get down there. So now we've dribbled off a little bit more, bouncing off of previous low, some importance, but we deserve to bounce a little bit back toward the neckline, a little bit, but not going above the neckline. Do not get above or close, in particular, close above the blue line. Now, anytime now, we could break this minor support just under 29 and then start dropping off a chunk more, which is exactly what I expect and predict. The minimum objective down is 24.10. Next, platinum. Same pattern in general. Let's rescale. So on the first shoulder high, April 12th, downside move, pivot point, rally, and we sold the top of the market with an ER signal, bearish engulfing signal, ER bearish signal, the high day so far. We didn't know at the time that it was going to be the head of a head and shoulder top. Now we realized this, of course, a few weeks ago, and the downside objective is all the way down to 807, 808. And we're just starting a couple of days ago. The small head and shoulder top has not reached its minimum objective, which would be 929.30, but we've got at least 2/3 of it accomplished. Yesterday's low is the same as today's low, basically. So I'm looking for lower levels. We're oversold a little bit for the last couple of days, but I think we're going to get down to the first objective and into the support area before we see any meaningful bounce. Because it's a head and shoulder top, you're not supposed to go above the neckline, which is currently at 990. I'll move up to 990, but no way do I want it to close above there. And frankly, not even rally above there. I think it's just going to make new lows real soon. Next, copper. Making new lows again today. We had a false signal, but legitimate for a while on July 10th, but I can't count that as an ER sell signal because it didn't stay a signal at the end of the day. That one worked okay for a few days. Nice short-term trade. Too bad we didn't get anything on the top of the market, except for overbought conditions, and a historical support level that stopped at. So bearish, looking for a move down to approximately 3.4, a little lower. And it could happen pretty quickly. Even though we're slightly oversold, it's not too bad. But, anytime now, a little bounce and then down to 4.0. All right. The bounce is in progress on beans. Let's look at oil and meal and corn and wheat, then cattle, hogs, and crypto, Bitcoin. So, got oversold at a very minor historical support level, and that went back to a small trading range all the way back to January 22, 2.5 years ago. So we're bouncing for a day or two now, second day, and it could come up, like I've said, to 1104. And I can't rule out 1143. So somewhere in there, probably 1104. We're already getting up on the RSI scale to 61, but that's not that close. But if we go right up to 1104, we just might be overbought at the same time. Next, bean oil, between a rock and a hard spot. We start moving above 48.90. I'm going to have to rethink things on a longer-term, intermediate to longer-term bullish opinion. Right now, I'm neutral, kind of bearish, looking for new lows, but I got no movement either way to cause me any excitement. It's been 2 weeks now. Last thing to look at, overbought, came down some, now going flat between support underneath and a little resistance above. I'm waiting. Meal, very close to the same thing, except Meal's double top, sell signal on the second high, perfect. Has not yet gotten to its minimum downside objective because of the double top, 306, let's call it. Came kind of close at 1112, but we're still bouncing. Today's high is in a little resistance, so I'm looking for a new low by a modest amount at least. I'm looking for 306. And what about corn and wheat? Corn broke out to the downside weeks ago. I warned you at the time. Big classic downside breakout, June 28th. Moved down, couldn't rally. We got a buy signal, and then the next damn day, we made a new low for about 2.5 cents lower. So that killed the buy signal, but we have not had a lower low since that day after my signal. I can't take credit for the signal being good, but I can, as I've said hundreds of times, these signals, my ER buy and sell signals, are not always the bottom or top like this bottom of significant moves, but sometimes they are part of the bottom building and or part of the top building process. I'll get 2, maybe 3, very rarely 4 or more while it's topping out or bottoming out, and then you won't really know that until after the fact a little bit, but you'll have a formation, a breakout of probably. Next one is a buy signal a couple days ago in wheat on Friday. So far, that Friday buy signal is relatively close to the lowest low for the trend, but it's working okay. Our stop has come up, and now a very small risk of about 43 and a 43 and about 43 stop is 37. So we're looking at 5.5, 6 cents risk. Currently, it's a little bit of a loss on the trade, a few cents, but I'm hoping it'll turn profitable ASAP and not hit the stop, obviously. I'll get out with a small loss. You start to make new highs, my RSI is going to start to move up, accelerating the move and moving the stop up. That's exactly what I want, and crossing my fingers. Next, cattle. Up into resistance again, like yesterday. At the moment, staying there. Between a rock and a hard spot. I got to say, I got to wait. I'm not very sure about cattle. And Miss Piggy is now finally up to that resistance area I told you it might get up to. I was expecting it, and here it is. Not only that, we have a little gap today. There's a gap below today's low and yesterday's high. So this gap is, although it's not very big, we should come down to that. And if we do it very quickly, we're pulling down out of the resistance area. No surprise. And guess what? We're overbought today for the first time to be overbought since way back in April. That's the last time we were overbought. These other yellows are oversold and then oversold and oversold and oversold, 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 finally catching on enough for a good rally back to overbought and resistance. This is going to turn down. Let's just see it do it. Don't do anything yet, but I'm looking for a sell signal now that we're overbought. And crypto. Buy signal on the bottom, the low day, prompted me to put this chart into the series. So we've gone up very nicely. Can't really peg here a major resistance area, but take into consideration that high, we broke through it and came back down to it. Support, we came down to approximately, but a little bit lower than, but just shot back up in oversold conditions only for a day or two. Made a little island bottom there. So crypto is very herky-jerky. It doesn't move up and down as smoothly as most other markets that I've analyzed over the decades. I'm very skeptical about that kind of movement. It puts you at significant risk to be gapping up and gapping down without much allowable alternatives. Nevertheless, outside update, bullish engulfing on and in an oversold condition. July 18th, we caught a bottom. What's happened in this, the E-mini and NASDAQ? We're holding so far, looking for this level to be broken before the close, 5602, I hope, before the close. NASDAQ, pretty much the same thing. We just did break below those lows from earlier, but it didn't stay down there. Interesting. It popped right back up again a little bit, not much. I really can't call that a bear trap of any consequence, but I'd like to see this roll over and start to make new lows again. I think so. Have a great day. Mañana. Profitable trading to you.